Okay, in today's video, I'm gonna break it down into very simple terms and highlight my top 10 tips for sleep and how we maximize your sleep efficiency as opposed to just the duration of sleep. So, tip numero uno is gonna be value your sleep. Okay, so first and foremost, guys, when you're planning out your day, like most of you do in the digital space, obviously planning out what work block 1 entails, work block 2, work block 3, when you come to planning your day in terms of your start times and end times, reverse engineer it and actually plan for your sleep. Plan for at least 8 hours of sleep. So ideally speaking, you want to start your sleep before midnight and preferably before 11 p.m. Okay, especially when it comes to growth hormone production, and then from there also in terms of regulating your circadian rhythm with natural sunlight also. So maybe start your sleep at 10 o'clock at night and then from there end that more towards 6 to maybe 8 p.m. Okay, depending on the individual. The ideal time to wake up, I'm going to refer to later, is between 5 to 8 a.m. as well. Okay, so from there, as I said, guys, value your sleep, reverse engineer it, plan for at least 8 hours per day. Tip number 2, establish a very consistent sleep and wake schedule. So for those of you that aren't aware, one of the main systems which is going to essentially dictate the success of our sleep is going to be your circadian rhythm, okay? And what essentially that is making you aware of is your sleep start and end times and how consistent you have to be with that. So ideally speaking, I'm going to be going to bed at and starting my sleep at 10 o'clock at night and waking up at 6. Therefore, I'll be doing that every day and my circadian rhythm is aligned. Okay, so in regards to hormonal function, in regards to my body temperature fluctuating, and in regards to my body knowing when to go to sleep and also wake up, I tick those boxes. Okay, so stay consistent with your sleep and wake schedule. Tip number 3, create a bedtime routine for relaxation. Okay, so ideally speaking, you want to reverse engineer that again and stop working on heavy work tasks or even anything too light, at least 2 hours out from your sleep start time. So for me personally speaking, I make sure I switch off at 8 p.m. at the very latest, okay? And from there engage in activities which I feel I'm relaxing with. So either mobility, listening to some music, chilling with, for example, my partner, whatever it may be, okay? Or from there doing some artwork, whatever it may be. I simply like edit some photos on Photoshop, whatever, okay? Try and obviously limit the use of screen as well. Okay, it's really important. Tip number 4, brain dump in the evening. So similarly to how I have a notebook here, if you guys are working on high stress situations or high stress projects, you're gonna have a lot of thoughts floating around your head. And often the reasons to why you can't fall asleep is because you're thinking about business, okay? So we're gonna remove that and simply condense all those thoughts into a pad of paper. Okay, complete a brain dump. So maybe half an hour out from your sleep start time or maybe an hour. In terms of unwinding, all you want to do is get a pad of paper and then from there just simply note down all of your thoughts for the day and also plan out tomorrow today. Okay, in regards to success, when you wake up, you know exactly what you're working on, you know the tasks at hand, and you know your objectives for the day in regards to what's going to be successful or what's going to be a failure for the day. Next tip, avoiding blue light at all costs. So as you guys can see, I'm wearing my blue light blockers here. These look pretty extreme. I also have another pair here, which I wear when I'm working on my screens and monitors from any time past 12 p.m. Okay, and blue lights can be a really important topic we discuss because essentially what blue light informs our body of is making sure we're still awake. Okay, so these light sources make us think we should be awake, and it's going to suppress melatonin from being produced in our system. So essentially, in regards to our sleep start and end times, our body gets totally confused. We're not used to being respondent to blue light sources, okay? And our body's going to think it's daylight all the time, as opposed to thinking that we should be switching down past the time in which the sun sets. Okay, so avoid blue light at all costs. If you guys are working on monitors, wear your blue light blockers. Okay, if you guys are working past 5 p.m., wear a glass like this, like I'm wearing right now. A little bit more intense, maybe don't wear it in a social setting or when you're going out with your friends because you look like a bit of an nutter, but nonetheless, it's going to be a more efficient product. And from there also, make sure you're wearing long sleeve clothing if you are working in blue light, okay, because your skin still has receptors to light sources, and essentially it's going to block that from being so receptive. Listen to relaxing music, very, very simple action item. You can listen to binaural beats maybe, or something like classical music. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, how I enunciate his name, but Ludovico Einaudi. I'm sure it's an awful way to enunciate his name, but anyway, yeah, one of my favorite artists, and I listen to him late at night as well, especially when it comes to falling asleep or just remaining more consistent with my circadian rhythm and sleep-wake schedule. Avoid screens and stimulants. That's a really important one. So most of you guys would refer to, especially if you're young in the business space, would refer to yourselves as being like a night owl. So you often like working or waking up at like 10 o'clock in the morning maybe, and working till 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever it may be. Okay, and the reason as to why you're a night owl is actually very, very simple. It's not something which you are set as being. Okay, we obviously have our chronotypes when it comes to your sleep, and the sleep start times you should be more consistent with. So if you guys haven't tested your sleep chronotype, go to Michael Bruce online and test out his sleep chronotype test. Okay, but no one is a night owl. It's impossible to be a night owl. Okay, the reason as to why you think you are is because you're actually working under blue light consistently. As a result of that, your body doesn't know when to go to sleep, and therefore you're pushing your sleep start time further and further back to the point in which your body adjusts to that. Okay, so please make sure you're avoiding use of screens at night. Okay, make sure you're completing a wind down routine, and then from there it's going to help you remain more consistent with your sleep start and end times, and obviously your efficiency throughout the day. Don't open Slack or email 2 hours prior to bed. So we don't want any stress response, we don't want anything to arise which can be stressful for us, we have to deal with immediately. Simply don't engage in those activities past 2 hours prior to bed. Stop eating 2 to 4 hours out before bed. The reason as to why is we want our body to have a response in regards to our digestion, and then from there also minimize our heart rate from fluctuating, or from there being so fast at that point as well. Okay, in regards to our body temperature, because the lower our body temperature is, the better our quality of sleep will be. Okay, and by eating so close to bed, our heart rate accelerates because obviously we have to digest that food source, and then from there our quality of sleep will be minimized as well. And also we need to give our digestive system a break at times as well. Avoid snacking late at night, so avoid things like chocolate at all costs, okay? One of the worst food sources you could consume prior to bed. Obviously alcohol, avoid that at all costs. If you are going to snack on something, maybe utilize exogenous ketones like MCT oil, or from there have coconut butter, maybe almond butter, something like a honey sauce as well, so something actually high in fructose at that point, which doesn't spike blood sugars, but can keep them more stable as well. And maybe you can put that in your chamomile tea, or from there if you're utilizing like reishi sport, ashwagandha, whatever it may be in regards to, for example, an adaptogenic herb as well in the evening, as well as chamomile tea, put them all together in a combo, blend them together in your tea as well. Especially the use of honey, okay, it can be really important when it comes to regulating blood sugars and keeping them consistent and neutral throughout the night, okay, so you don't wake up. Keep your room temperature no higher than 70 degrees Fahrenheit, or from there 20 degrees Celsius. Very, very simple one if you guys have air conditioning, or if not, simply ventilate your room. Okay, keep the windows open at night, or at least 2 hours prior to. Make sure the room's nice and cold, which is going to minimize your body temperature, and then from there induce a greater state of sleep or higher sleep efficiency. Wear socks while sleeping. Now this sounds like a really, really weird one, but essentially just promotes blood flow and helps to maintain a cooler body temperature, which I referred to already as being really, really important and significant. Caffeine is the next topic at hand. Okay, so most of you guys who have chronically bad sleep or aren't aware of what your sleep metrics are telling you, okay, or also have really poor sleep efficiency, will rely on caffeine very, very heavily. Okay, so you might have a caffeine source first thing upon waking, like a coffee straight away, maybe a caffeine source at lunch, or maybe from there in the afternoon as well, when you hit that afternoon slump once your blood sugars crash, okay? We want to avoid this, we want to minimize the amount of caffeine you're consuming, and only have caffeine before 12 p.m. Okay, the half-life of caffeine is roughly 8 to 9 hours, depending on the individual and their personal response to it. And consuming more caffeine rather than the latter amount will from there obviously then really have negative implications when it comes to your sleep start and end times, and the consistency of that as well, and also your sleep latency. Again, you can track that with your Oura Ring, okay? Don't drink alcohol in the evening. Simple, just don't drink that at all in the evening. If you are going out, I'll make a video on that already. I have done already on hangovers and how to minimize that as well. And also in regards to certain things we can utilize to then minimize the response of alcohol in the system. But do not drink alcohol in the evening. Okay, it's more of a stimulant. We want to avoid stimulants at night. Only use your bedroom for sleeping, and then from obviously like activities with your partner, funny enough, but from there simply do not work in your bedroom, okay? Because in regards to a psychological response to that, not going to be very positive, and from there obviously you have ruminating thoughts as well when it comes to work or stresses which are arising at that time, okay? Try to wake up without an alarm clock. Very, very simple one, but once you have your circadian rhythm set, so like myself, for example, 10 o'clock and 6 o'clock wake time, you won't need an alarm clock to wake up, okay? And we simply don't want an alarm clock to wake us up. We're in the middle of a deep sleep phase, or from there a REM sleep cycle, okay? If you guys are going to utilize an alarm clock, utilize something like a light alarm clock, maybe from Philips, which simply lights itself up progressively over a period of half an hour and prevents you from waking up in a state of deep sleep or from their REM sleep, leaving you feeling awful and like you're dealing with a lot of brain fog, okay? Especially when it comes to hormonal response. And then from there, finally, stick to your circadian rhythms. So stick to your sleep start and end times as consistently as possible, okay? The individuals that are very good when it comes to their sleep hygiene, their sleep efficiency, will stick to their sleep start and end times almost religiously, maybe have an hour of deviance. Okay, an hour of deviance is perfectly fine. So for example, if I go to bed at maybe 11 o'clock at night and wake up at 7, that's also fine. It's not gonna have too much negative impact on me. But if, for example, I go to bed at 10 o'clock one night and then from there 2 o'clock the next, my circadian rhythms are gonna be totally out of order. And then from there in regards to hormonal responses when it comes to melatonin being produced, and then from there also cortisol being produced in the morning, which essentially gives us that kick to get us up out of bed, it's going to be shot, and also my blood sugars as well. Okay, so minimize that at all costs. Those are my hacks when it comes to optimizing your sleep, very simply. I'm sure I listed more than 10, and I referred to 10 at the start of the video, but yeah, guys, take them away, utilize them. They're not very difficult, they're not very costly in regards to the financial element of things. Put them in place one by one, add them into your daily routine, and reverse engineer the process when it comes to planning your sleep start and end times throughout your day.